In this video, I'm going to be replacing the fuel filler cap as well as the fuel filler assembly here. This is a 2011 Honda Pilot, and the lid broke off. Since this little tab is broken, this piece is no longer there. So we're going to be having to replace not only the cap, but also the assembly. So we're going to try to remove this. So we're going to detach this fuel cap from the inside. There's also a Phillips screw right here we're going to detach. And then this here is the lock mechanism that locks the door. And so we're going to have to try to get that out of the way so that this whole assembly can come out. Now here is the replacement. So this here is the cap. And when you buy this from Honda, it's just going to be black plastic. And so you have to get this painted to match the paint code of your car. And this is the assembly, which is what we're going to be replacing. So this assembly comes with its own door here. We just need to clip this cap on later. We'll show you how to do that. And of course, this back piece of this housing is kind of like a rubber, and you might be able to see that it's flexible. And this front part is more of a stiff plastic. And so we're going to detach that and try to get that out. Now the challenge, I think, for us is going to be unclipping this. We'll see how hard it is to take out, but this essentially goes behind the sheet metal like this and then clips in. And it has two clips right here. So these are some of the tools that I'll be using. Just some plastic pry tools and then just a Phillips screwdriver. Got some tape around the paint just in case we need to pry this piece out. I don't want to damage the paint, so I'm just protecting that with some painter's tape. So first I'm gonna take this Phillips screw out. So I'm going to detach this fuel cap, and this is the retainer. Okay. Should now be able to remove the cap. Right here, you can see two circles, and right behind those circles are the clips. So if you can use that kind of as a guide. I heard it pop, but before we can take it out, I'm going to need to push this pin in. And unfortunately, we're still going to have this little round plastic piece that needs to slide out behind this little slot behind it. But this metal piece is in the way, so it's going to prevent it from sliding out as I pull this out. So just temporarily put some paper right here so we don't get dust and dirt into the gas tank. I'm going to take my smaller pry tool to get this rubber piece around. Now I know this is going to be replaced, so I don't really care if it's destroyed in the process, but just trying to get this around the filler. Okay, I guess I'll keep it there for now. So this is the locking pin, this black piece, which needs to be pushed in. But this base circle plastic piece is going to need to slide past this housing in the rear as I pry this piece out. But there's this metal piece that's going to be in the way, so I'm trying to get my pry tool behind it and then pry it around the base of the plastic piece.
Later.
Okay, so to explain what we just did, we kind of brute forced it, but so we used something like this to push down the pin, the locking pin, and then get behind this this metal bracket to push it this way. At the same time, I got Jessica to get some pliers and pull this metal piece this way. And then I pried on the outside to get this to come loose. So now that it is loose, we should be able to pull this out like this. We've already got the rubber loose. So as I'm pulling on this, it's fighting me back here on this rubber. So I need to get the remainder of this rubber out.
Moments later.
So we had to cut away some of this hard plastic because what we were doing when we were pulling out, it was binding on this side of the fuel neck filler. So we cut that away so that we could get it out. Maybe it's kind of hard to see on the camera, but all of this right here, so all of this is rubber, it's flexible. Hopefully this will fit in. We'll have to get this set in first. And this, as I said, is rubber. Try to get this in. And before I do that, let me actually put some more tape around this side. As I continued to struggle, I realized that we weren't going to be able to fit this assembly in very easily without gaining some wiggle room from the filler neck. So we decided to change strategies, lift the vehicle to remove the wheel so that we could remove the fender, and behind the fender we could access the bolts to loosen the filler neck.
"20 minutes later." Two hours later.
Are we going the right way?
Yes.
Is it moving?
Yes.
3 hours later.
This is ridiculous.
6 hours later.
I don't know if this is going to be long enough, to be honest.
Few inches later.
It's coming up.
All we needed is just a little bit, right?
Yeah, just enough to get the tire off.
Is it up off the ground?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, we're good.
Very careful.
Back to ratcheting.
Trying to remove this fender cover so that we can access two screws that hold on the fuel filler. That way we can get a little bit more flexibility in installing the fuel assembly. 10 millimeter. And I've got 3 screws that I've already removed. And there's actually quite a few screws. So there's one kind of pop, I don't know what they call these, but they could push pin type plastic fastener. And then we're gonna need to take these off too. It's kind of hard to see because it's muddy, but there's Phillips screws right here. 1, 2, 3, and 4. I think that's all. And then here's one over this side. This one's already ripped, but there's another one there. Now just gotta make sure that we're bringing the plastic out of the fender. Just gonna hold it that way. Basically, this is the fuel filler right here. And we needed to be able to have some play. And so I'm gonna loosen these 2 bolts right here. So since we've loosened the bracket, now we have this ability to flex it, so that hopefully once we get our piece in there, we can kind of push it out of the way from behind the fender, get it in, and then put the rubber piece around it. I'm gonna pull this down carefully.
Is it a 2-person job?
It might be.
2,000 years later.
This is a pain in the butt to get in. I think this metal piece, this filler piece, even though we took off the bracket to get it to move just a little bit more, it was almost impossible to get this plastic piece in around this metal piece. So I think the dealership might take it off at the bottom somehow, but I don't want to mess with like spilling fuel. So we brute forced it out of the way and somehow got this piece in halfway to get this on. The next problem we had is that this pin, plastic pin here, this piece here was behind this plastic. So I took this pry tool and fed it all the way back behind this metal bracket, pushed down on the black pin, and then just pushed it in and forced it in. I don't know, I just kind of pushed on it really hard, but I was able to get around the metal bracket. So now we're just left with pushing this in and getting those 2 clips to kind of fasten behind the sheet metal. So let's see if I can do that. Yeah, I think it's in place. So next we're gonna put the bracket back on the metal fuel filler so that that is rigid. A top piece and a bottom piece to the bracket. This kind of clamps in right here. And then of course this screw goes back on the top. So I've just reassembled the bracket. So this screw goes in from the back side, and then these 2 screws are also fastened. Now, next we're going to put the fender liner back in. So make sure that the fender liner is behind this metal lip. And then this piece right here, it actually goes in front of the bottom piece. So it kind of transitions right here. But now we should make sure that we've got our holes aligned. And we're gonna put on all the fasteners now. I'm going to replace the Phillips screw. Before I put this back on, I'll take my paper towel out. there's no debris. Okay. Now we're ready to put the lid on. So here's the freshly painted piece. And on the back, it has this round little thing sticking out. And then here it has a little, I don't know, like a little notch sticking out. That's gonna hook into a slot over here. And there's these little tiny teeth that kind of hook in these two grooves. So we're gonna actually turn this around. And this big piece kind of goes into this hole here. And then this little thing is gonna clip right here. See if we can get that aligned. Okay, so that's in there. Now I gotta push it backwards until it clicks. All right. So I'm just making sure it's on there. Yep. Just the popping of the fuel filler. So we have it assembled, it's back together and working. It is a lot harder to put this together than I originally thought. And if you're doing this by yourself, lift the car, take the tire off, get the liner off, disassemble the bracket that's holding the fuel line, and then maybe you'll have some ability to move that spout around just a little bit. But it was still tricky enough as it was to get the plastic piece in and then trying to get the tube inside the rubber piece all together. So definitely recommend doing it at a dealership, but with two people we were able to manage it, but I think this is just like one of those things that it's very tricky and we might have just gotten lucky without breaking something. So that's it for this video. If you liked the video or want to see more videos like this, please hit the thumbs up and we'll see you in the next one.